I hate the golden spiral. All these rules of composition, they're cool, I guess, but how is that a golden spiral? How is this a golden spiral? It does not make sense. I mean, they're good fundamentals to think of, I guess, but like respectively, how is that rule of thirds with that close up on the eyes? There's nothing about that that's divided into thirds. It's just a close up. So, lucky for you guys, I have the real formula. Clarity plus emphasis is how you get good composition. That's all you need to think about. First, I'm going to share some stuff from movies that have good composition, like Past Lives. Oh my god, everything in this movie is framed so perfectly. What I love about Past Lives is just everybody is given their space to breathe in all of these compositions. They're all framed by the environment behind them, and it just gives them their own space. And I think that clarity is just a masterpiece. Look at the light on the wall behind his head. That's intentional. It makes him stand out. Just, oh, it's so good. Spider-Verse does the same thing with the light background to make him stand out. Or look how they're just above the city line here, and they have that space in the sky to give their characters their space. If it was a little lower and she was like in the city line, it wouldn't be as good. We see the same things in Star Wars or Cowboy Bebop. Instead, they make the background darker for him to stand out more. And here, let's look at some Sinners. In the center of it, it's so much brighter, it makes them stand out, but the edge of frame, it's dark because they're not as important to the story or what they're trying to capture. And if it's a more square aspect ratio, this is a good composition too. Or if it's like you're working on a sketchbook page and it's just up and down, could work also. If you frame it where it's like so much of him is cut out, then I would say it lacks clarity and just isn't as good of a composition. If you frame it like this, these three look like the three main characters, and that could work too. There are a lot of different ways to focus on what's going on in an image, and that's where you find the art. So I say give your characters space to breathe where there's clarity, and light things to give them more focus. And this works for paintings, movies. Here's some more classical paintings where it's doing the same thing. So just pay attention to whatever painting or movie you're watching. How do they capture the subject? How do they focus in on it? How is it lit to make the characters stand out? The dimensions you're working with will also affect a lot on how you're going to capture something. Whatever dimensions, just think, how can I fill that frame intentionally and just make it pleasing to view? If it's vertical, how can I make it good horizontal? Whether you're taking from live pictures or videos and trying to make art out of it, it's all about reframing and just how can you fill up whatever dimensions you're working with in the most pleasing way you can with the dimensions that you have. When you have good clarity on the characters, it helps so much with the storytelling of a scene. Look at these two close together versus the dad in the background in a separate sky. And I'm not saying you need a Wes Anderson make everything the most clear thing ever. PTA here is cutting off the legs of it. He's cutting off the gun. I would never do that, but hey, maybe that's why I'm not an Oscar winner. But there's so many ways to capture an image, and I think with beginners, you think like, there must be like one certain real true way to get a good image. But there's not. I mean, it's just, and I hope you can realize that and have a little more confidence and just make more conscious decision making on what you want to capture. Maybe if you were here, you'd want to capture the street and all the bustling people within it, but I thought the tower against the sky was what was beautiful, so that's all my focus was on for this page. And when it comes to making art, you don't need to capture everything that's layered. Feel free to cut things out to make it the composition that you want it to be. Here you'll see I completely omit all the rocks and textures. Like if I had a more square portrait, I would do this, but I had a very tall, thin page, so I did this instead. And with those same dimensions, how would you capture this? I went horizontal and went corner to corner. And this is a similar idea too, but I went more vertical here, just really maximizing the dimensions of the page. I love using the environment also to frame the characters within it. Or like how these clouds and buildings all angle down towards these two people in the corner. And while they're not the exact emphasis of the page, there's a nice flow that brings everything together. Here I have the leaves go around him and make the background behind him lighter, that tree line, to make him stand out a little more. I have these images in my sketchbook both framed by a tree, and if there's no frame by the environment or the page, make frames yourself within it. And I think it's something that could make it more dynamic and interesting. This next drawing, I actually drew the bottom first, but felt like I didn't want to extend it fully to the top because it'd look weird, so I just closed it off and did another smaller image. I did the drawing on the left in a real light pen, and I didn't want to render it more, so I just made the background dark and then used 2 smaller images to fill up the rest of that page. This is an image I've painted twice now, and here I would cut it down to more focus for a sketchbook page size. And I don't do any of the foliage above. If it was more square, I might do something like this, or full scale, I would do something like that. Here's another I've done 2 variations of, but for a sketchbook it's more vertical, so I cut it down more like this to focus on. And it's just the towers and the clouds for the most part. However, with a really tall canvas, I could get the whole entire building and sky in there. But if I'm working something more small scale, I could do another great composition of more the building and the clouds, and it's equally as valid. Here's a picture I took in the fields, but I liked a more vertical thing because I felt all the action was just in this sliver. This is what I did in the moment live. I had the full page to work with, but I just had no interest in painting the sky, really. On the second take, I have a long kind of panoramic canvas to get the whole view, but within it, there are plenty of compositions where you could cut it out and it works. So there's more than one way to do it, and I just hope you guys remember that there isn't just one right perspective. Whatever you're doing, just try and capture it with confidence, clarity, and emphasis, whether that is through lighting or framing. Make it clear, and I think you'll be all right.